Alright, good morning, Mr. Kreisky. We have looked into your portfolio and your existence in the school and everywhere else. That's why we have chosen you for one of our interview candidates today. Alright. On the topic of globalization on language, with the decrease in the ability to speak the Indonesian language, what are your opinions on this problem?
I think it's a real problem. I think we undermine it, especially in the international community. Even with the national community, the proper way of speaking Bahasa Indonesia, it's also losing ground. But when it gets to international communities like international schools, even international churches, anything that has to do with a global community, we forget that we're still in Indonesia.
So we're basically like constantly forgetting it
Yes,
because
definitely,
we're
definitely.
international. Alright. For the second question, in what ways have you personally observed changes in the usage of Indonesian language in your daily life? And do you believe these changes are primarily due to globalization or not?
Yeah, I think globalization plays a big part of it because now there's a lot of mixes of language. So there would be foreign language mixed with Bahasa Indonesia,
Yeah.
and I understand that languages are very fluid. It will evolve. Bahasa Indonesia will evolve. It will change. It will be modernized, and there's going to be some words that we didn't have before. But what's happening now? There's this movement of idolizing the wrong way of saying things, or at least idolizing the changes instead of respecting of the original language itself. I don't mind. I don't mind the evolution, but I do think that there are some cases where there's no need to add English words to things that can be explained in Bahasa Indonesia. So,
Alright. Now, on the third question, have you noticed any differences in the languages used by young people, like around our age and above? Like in your area compared to older generation? If so, what are they?
well, yeah, I think it's it's how technology have evolved. We are now exposed to a lot of media that comes from overseas, and a lot of it is in English. Internet, YouTube, social media. A lot of them are English based. Most of them are, and especially when when people put emphasis on how important or how cool it is to know how to speak English, to write in English, to post something in English, even though they don't understand fully of what they're saying. But there's a lot of change, especially with the younger audience. A lot of parents also, I'm friends with a lot of younger parents, and they want their kids to know how to speak English first. And what tends to happen is that they grow up with English as their first language, and Bahasa Indonesia is not even their second language. It's more of a side language that they have to know how to speak or how to understand.
On to the fourth question, can you share any examples of foreign words or phrases that you have heard in your daily life, and how they have impacted the way people speak or communicate in your community?
Oh yeah, I nitpick because I am an educator, and I hear a lot of kementerian, the ministry of our government, saying words like edukasi instead of pendidikan, and things that words that we have words for it in Bahasa Indonesia, but they tend to use the Indonesianized English version of those words just so it sounds smart. It doesn't. It doesn't sound smart. Of course, there are some words where I think it's difficult to use. For example, like when we're talking about technology words like download, upload. Indonesians recreated the word unduh and unggah. Those are not very common, but words like pendidikan, we've been using it for a long time. There's a lot of daily words where we've been using it for a long time, like saya, aku, gue even, that's very slang. But changing it to I, it's just, I don't understand why.
Alright, that's it. Thank you, sir. Alright, good morning, Bapak Ignas WRD. I'm Benjamin, and I personally have chosen you to interview today because they are able to speak English fluently. Alright, we're starting off today's interview with question 1. With the decrease in the ability to speak in the Indonesian language, what are your opinions on this pressing issue?
I think it's part of the communication which bring us globally together. Yes, it is in fact the impact of globalization, which allows people to trade, to do economies, to interact socially within one another. So just like technology, it's something that we have to adapt and we have to be able to our advantage in our daily life.
To the second question, in what ways have you personally observed changes in the usage of the Indonesian language in your daily life? And do you also believe these changes are primarily due to globalization?
You mean the Indonesian language?
Yeah, Indonesian language in your daily life.
I think it's still being used in school, in government, and in television, mostly these languages. What was the second question?
And do you believe these changes are primarily due to globalization? Like,
You mean the Indonesian language?
no. So, like, in what ways have you personally observed? Like, what ways are where have you observed these changes and like?
Oh, where English suddenly replaces Indonesian, you mean?
And do you believe these changes are primarily due to globalization?
I do believe so. So, for example, I mean, we used to call the shopping center like pasar, more like market. We don't have a word mall until probably in the 1990s. So, and they adopted to mall instead of mall, saying it in English. So there's a lot of adaptation from the English language. In fact, if you take a look from the history